Welcome to the Cosmic Afterlife. You're being recorded as Earth. Welcome to the life of the solar system. You're the Earth 4.5 billion years ago. Before you became a habitable planet with all sorts of life, now you just got born and now you're like Venus. Very hot, toxic, and dangerous. But hey, look, there's another planet. She calls herself Theia, which is a weird name, and she'll show you some other planets. Theia is gonna show you Mars. But before you react because you were just born, and you got shocked because Mars had water. Like, what the heck just happened? And also, Theia started showing you Venus, and you thought Venus is going to be different. Nope, he also has water. In a couple of millions of years, you and Theia will know each other for a very long time. So it's going to take
2,000 years later.
Now you and Theia are starting to get close together, and suddenly Theia wants life. But you try to humble her down and tell her it's kind of impossible to get life. She tries and tries. Well, you keep repeating and repeating. Until suddenly... whoops! And the last thing you see is Theia's surface is crashing into your surface. Your thought is gonna be the end. So you accepted and you just... accepted your fate. Well, actually, this is not actually your end. You thought it's going to be the end of your life and your story just immediately gets over. But this is actually what I call cosmic planet reproduction. Well, actually, it does sound weird, but think about it as like a phoenix. You both die, but new planets be formed, and also moons too. Finally, now you're reborn. Now you're a molten hot lava in the middle of space. And also, you're finally tilted to where you can make several seasons. And also, you notice you got a moon. Well, it's called the moon today, but it also has another name, which we're going to call it. Your moon's name is now Luna. And you and Luna are going to have to survive through this. But actually, you have to deal with asteroids every single day. This is the late heavy bombardment. Not only you and Luna had to deal with it, but also Mars and Venus. They had to deal with it too. And when you got hit by another asteroid, you look, who's actually in charge of the asteroid belt? And your mind goes like, immediately the sun, because the sun controls pretty much a lot of things. But actually it's incorrect, because actually it is Jupiter who's controlling it. And he was immediately born and did a mistake so much he has to handle the Kuiper belt. That is one big punishment. But also you got a little bit of spark from, the Theia's corpse in you. Now you really want life. Kind of like a mix of both parents, but instead... And also, you also notice Jupiter and Saturn have been close friends since birth. Or creation, if you want to view it that way. Interesting. Finally, the heavy bombardment is now over. You're starting to harden while your moon is permanently look like that forever. And also, you asked Jupiter some help how to get water first. And Jupiter said, well, it's actually kind of easy. You just need comets and some frozen water preserves. So you actually got excited. Well, your old self, Proto-Earth, will be kind of surprised. You go like, nice! And finally, you finally had water the first time. And finally, now you got your early life form. And your first organisms have appeared. Even though they're the first inhabitants or cells, but they still don't know what to do. It's like you turned dead and now you're reborn. And you still don't know how to survive. And now you're very, very lucky. Other than the magnetic field will actually protect your organisms, and plus your atmosphere. And also some of your friends closer are actually different now. It's like Mars before actually was very exhausted. He took a very long millions of years nap, and once he woke up, he was surprised and pretty much cursed about his water inhabitants. So he doesn't want life ever again. And so you and Mars started talking to each other and now you become friends. Yes, good for relationships. Remember your simple life inhabitants? And now they're kind of evolving. They start inventing photosynthesis. And the first photosynthesis organisms have begun. Cyanobacteria. And they also release oxygen in the atmosphere, which is not bad today, but to them, it's an ultimate mass extinction. And 99% of all single-cell life have died. Maybe the 1% actually hibernated through. And somehow the oxygen reacts to your atmosphere, and yep, your first ice age had begun. And it's going to take several millions of years just to cool it off, to actually warm up your atmosphere. This is going to suck so hard. And finally, now you're back to life. You're finally brought back from your first ice age. Nice. But after your freezing of an ice cube and you were preserved for a very long millions of years, now you notice Jupiter looks different. So does Saturn too, but it's just a little bit of a change. And finally, now you finally got your life forms back. But they survive and figure out how to breathe through the atmosphere. So some of the cyanobacteria actually did survive. The first actually oxygen-breathing organism was the bacteria. And now cells began. And now multicellular beings have a form. Even though they look like little blobs with some organs inside. But in this time period, they look a little bit like sperm cells. There's a flagella to actually help them swim around. And it does look different because somehow multicellular life doesn't even exist yet. Until a few million years, finally the Cambrian explosion hit. Now you got everything you need. Now you're covered in fish and arthropods. Mostly arthropods. And taking a few more millions of years, now you got squids and some clams and snails for some reason. So you pretty much have all life you have. New life forms have formed. And the Orvisian mass extinction happened and now you freeze like frozen solid again. That really sucked. And now finally you're back. You were frozen solid and now you suddenly have rings because of an asteroid. Kind of like Saturn's ring, but you're the first one to have rings. Maybe. And now your first tetrapods went on land. Not only you got tetrapods, you also got extremely jaw fish. Has the extreme jaws. So snappy turtles are weaker than them. But it's not what you think why your tetrapods decided to go on land because of food. They also had to go on land because oxygen are running low on water. The water is technically getting oxygen low, which also adds an ultimate mass extinction. That will be a pain.
Later.
So finally it's the late Permian. And this is before the volcanoes have erupted. But a couple of minutes you saw Venus is hurting Mars for some reason. Like actually hurting Mars. So you got angry. You got so angry you finally start at your mass extinction. Welcome to the Great Dying. And this timeline, it gets a little scary. Not only you were angry at Venus, you were battling Venus, and all animals on your planet had to deal with the worst massive extinction event. The volcanoes you have created because of your anger actually spew out and got cold deposits. To make your life forms have to deal with all sorts of deadly things. Even the early Triassic, you still have big deserts and you're still battling Venus. Until suddenly you stop fighting afterward, and after that late Triassic, it starts raining for millions of years. And of course another worst mass extinction also happens in the late Cretaceous, where all dinosaurs survive until, well, suddenly you and Mars are playing asteroid dodgeball until suddenly, boom, a worse mass extinction happened. And now, the dinosaurs are going extinct because of an asteroid. And this is all over. You were chilling out in the Ice Age. But suddenly, humanity has formed, built societies, and starts polluting your world. So suddenly they brought back direwolves. And sooner or later, this is going to be your end. And so... So this is your end of the story. Being Earth is finally having a happy ending, where you die with the sun, and finally you've been turned into ashes while the sun exploded into a supernova. So, there's going to be more videos coming soon. So remember, like, subscribe, hit the bell. Welcome to Space Time Galaxy, and goodbye.